Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. And in this video we're going to be comparing the two most recent Boba Fett figures from the vintage collection. Now both of them on the face of it look pretty similar, but they are different in many ways, and we're going to get into that as the video goes on. But I've just put them up here so you can see them side by side to start with. Now the one on the left here is the Boba Fett from Morak. He is the one that came on the card back. So he is what's also known as the re-armored Boba Fett, and he is from the Mandalorian Season 2. The guy on the right is his look from the Book of Boba Fett. He's called Boba Fett from Tatooine, and his costume is based on, as I say, his appearance in the Book of Boba Fett. So you can see the differences, especially from the waist down. But the one on the right here, the Tatooine one, this was described as a deluxe set, and it came with a few extra accessories, stormtrooper helmets, things like that. But I was actually quite surprised how different these figures are, especially in terms of the jetpack. I didn't really think his jetpack necessarily changed that much from the show, but we'll flip the figures around any second now so you can take a look at that. But I just want to quickly touch on the paint schemes to begin with. So you can see this guy, the re-armored Fett, he has no scuffs or anything on the helmet, whereas this one does. Now I always found that a little bit weird, because in the Mandalorian Season 2 he gets his armor back and it's a complete mess. It's all scuffed up, it's in a terrible state, and then the next time you see him he's repainted it basically, and he looks absolutely awesome. And that is what this one is based on. But then I did find it a bit strange that the moment you saw him in the Book of Boba Fett, he had, you know, a lot of sort of marks on it. It was almost back to how it was. And from what I can remember, you don't really see how that happened. But that is just the way it is anyway. So you can see he is a lot more cleaner, basically. This one on the left is a lot cleaner than the one on the right. So we're just going to flip the figures around very quickly so you can see the backs. And you'll see the differences straight away in the jetpack. Now the one on the right, the Tatooine Boba Fett, has the rocket firing, so I will remove that in a second. But just because of that, I didn't think they needed to sort of change the rocket so much. I mean, if you look at this one's a lot bigger than this one. As I say, this one does remove, so we'll pull that out right now. So there it is. And then if we just put it up against this one, you'll see what I'm talking about. The tip of the actual rocket is quite different, which I did find strange, because they could have easily have just used that sculpt and put the fire effect on there, and then it would look exactly the same. So now it looks like they've got two slightly different jetpacks. The paint scheme on them as well is completely different. As you can see, this one has a lot more blue on it. This one doesn't. This one has yellow around the little rockets there. This one doesn't. Apart from that, they're pretty much the same. The back of the figures, you can see that this one has the full length Karma, whereas this one doesn't. It's a bit more sort of cut, and it also comes down the front as well, as you can see there. And one of the main criticisms I have of this figure is that this is very tatty. It frays very easily, whereas this one is cut a lot better. But I guess, you know, at this point in the Book of Boba Fett, his outfit's a bit more smarter anyway, so maybe that matches. There you go. So before we take a look at the head sculpts and the differences of the head sculpts, I just want to bring your attention to the legs, because the legs are completely different. You can see here that underneath there he has those like flary trousers, which is how he was dressed, I guess, from when he was with the Tusken Raiders. But the version from the Book of Boba Fett has more of your sort of standard trousers or pants if you're in the States. And he has the brown boots with the yellow at the top, whereas this version has those pieces of material over his boots, and they go under the shoes as well, as you can see there, and they're painted grey. But he does have the knee pads underneath there, as you can see. Now somebody asked me the question, which Boba Fett should they get? If they're only going to get one, which one's the better figure? And in all honesty, I can't really answer that, because it really just comes down to which look you want. Do you want him looking as he looked in the Mandalorian, or do you want his look from the Book of Boba Fett? And really that's the choice that you have. The Book of Boba Fett one is a bit more expensive because he's the deluxe one and you get all the extras with him, but this one isn't cheap either. He is more than your standard figure. You'll also notice that the blasters are different as well. The one from the Book of Boba Fett is a little bit smaller, and it does have a silver end on the barrel, whereas this one's more of a gunmetal grey, and it is larger as well. Unfortunately, they are both as gummy as each other. They are really bendy, and it's actually quite difficult for the figure to keep them in his hands. Basically, they fall out quite a lot, they bend, and they don't look great. So if there's anything that I think Hasbro should improve on going forward, it's the accessories, it's the blasters. They're too gummy. They need to be made to scale, and they need to be made of a better plastic as well. But the fact that they've made that one smaller, I guess, is a good thing, because this one is definitely too big. And he struggles to hold that one a lot more than that one, but there's the differences anyway. Now you can see, apart from the paint apps, that the upper torsos are pretty much identical in every way. There's, as I say, there's slightly different paintwork on his gauntlet here to that one, but all in all, they are pretty much the same figure from the torso up. However, the belt is slightly different. This one has these rounds of ammunition on the belt there, whereas this one doesn't. He has more pouches. They both have the sidearm holster, and I'll show you those two blasters in a second to make sure that they're the same. But as I say, all in all, from the waist up, they are pretty much the same figure. Now we're going to compare the head sculpts. Now the actual sculpt of the head is pretty much identical, same expression on his face and everything. Paint apps are ever so slightly different. What I did notice about the one on the left, and I don't think I did notice this when I was reviewing him, is that his scars are painted red, ever so slightly, like a pinky red, just to bring out the scars on there, whereas this one, they are white. Now, I remember when I was reviewing this guy, I was actually thinking to myself, at this point in the show, he hadn't had all his back to tank treatment and things like that. At least I don't think he had. Now, when I was reviewing this guy for the first time, I did think to myself that the head still should have had more scarring on it, more white, because I think in that episode he did still have quite a lot of his scarring. I know that once he was in the Book of Boba Fett, he had been in the back to tank quite a lot, and obviously had sort of healed and what have you. So this one, although he does have the red scarring, which is pretty cool, I think maybe they needed to make a bit more of that, and maybe even sculpt some of it, especially on the side of the head there, which it seems to be missing from. I can understand it not doing it on this one, because I say at that point he would have healed quite a bit. Here are the two sidearm blasters, and I can confirm they are exactly the same. I can't see any differences between those whatsoever, which is understandable really. It's just his sidearm. So there you go, one more time, there they are together. Now I've got to say, you know, these are two of the best figures that we've had in the vintage collection. Without a doubt, they are amazing Boba Fetts. Of course, they're going to have issues, and we need to highlight those issues so Hasbro get better at things, basically. And the biggest issues for me on these figures are definitely the blasters. They're far too gummy. They're really hard to hold in his hands. This guy's soft goods is far too tatty. It frays, and at the end of the day, it's going to fray and fray and fray unless you sort the sides out with some type of glue, some type of fabric glue or something. They're just going to keep fraying, and they're just going to waste away completely. You can see, you know, there's a bit of it there coming away. So that's just going to keep happening. But apart from that, two absolutely amazing figures. They look awesome, and I absolutely love them. So I'm glad to have them in my collection. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've liked that comparison of the two Boba Fetts. As I said before, when asked the question of which one's better, it's very difficult to say, because it really just comes down to personal preference of, you know, which look you prefer. Do you prefer the Mandalorian look, or do you prefer the Book of Boba Fett? I happen to like them both, which is why I've bought both, of course. They're awesome. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Drop a like down below if you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new, and we shall see you on the next one.